Okay, so far we know that this A thing out front is going to change my amplitude, and this B thing, which we're going to move in a second, but this B thing is going to be my horizontal shift, horizontal stretch. This C thing is my C thing we're going to call phase shift, which is your horizontal shift, and this D thing is your vertical shift up and down. We're going to rewrite this equation real quick. We're going to write y equals a, and then I'm going to write the word trig, because it can be any trig function. You always want to make sure to try to pull this b out, and then do theta minus c minus d. And write this down and box it, and I'm going to explain to you why when we get to the second problem on this page, why this is so important. But before we do that, we're going to sketch this graph right here. So to do that, I'm going to make my table first. So my thetas, as always, are going to be 0, pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and then 2 pi. And I'm going to leave some space. And there's still my y's, but I'm going to write down x because I'm talking about cosine. Cosine at 0 is at 1, and then 0, and then negative 1, 0, 1. Okay, now if you look at this equation, we're going to move across the equation. I'm going to start by doing the stuff on the inside here. So my b is 2, so this looks like multiply all my angles by 2, but really it's a girl thing, so remember it's backwards. Instead of multiplying by 2, you're going to divide by 2. So you can write divide by 2, or you're going to multiply by a half. And so I'm going to multiply all these values by a half, so 0, pi over 4, pi over 2, 3 pi over 4, pi. This is that b value, so real quick I just want to talk about 2 pi over b, which is 2. 2 pi over 2 is equal to pi. So my period is pi. It should only take me pi units to repeat myself. I'm going to write that right there on my line, pi. And then my x part of my ordered pair is subject to the outside transformation. So I have to multiply by 3 and add a 2, and you're always going to do it in PEMDAS order. So PEMDAS says multiply first, so I'm going to multiply 3, 0, negative 3, 0, 3, and then I'm going to add my 2, and add the 2 to your new values here. So 5, 2, negative 1, 2, 5. So now I'm going to graph my new green ordered pairs and my last ones right here. So I'm graphing these ones right here and this together. So at 0 I'm at 5, which is off my graph, but that's okay. So 0 I'm up here at 5, and at pi over 4 I'm at 2, and at pi over 2 I'm at negative 1, and at 3 pi over 4, which is halfway in between pi over 2 and pi, you're back at 2, and at pi I'm back up here at 5 pi. And if you keep going, at 5 pi over 4 you should be back at 2, and at 3 pi over 2 back at negative 1. Something like this. So I'm going to try my best to connect these points. Okay, so there's my graph. And let's just talk about a couple things real quick. So my amplitude is the number that's out front, which is 3. So my amplitude is 3. It's how high how high and low I go from my middle point. Well, in this graph, my middle point is my 2. It's always this thing right here. From 2, I go up 3 and down 3. Up 3 and down 3. That's my amplitude. My left endpoint and my right endpoint, those are the ordered pairs that you had in here. So my first ordered pair, which is my left endpoint, is 0, 5. And my right endpoint is pi 5. Okay, so now let's see if we've conquered this. I want you to take a second and try to make the table for the next one, but I don't want you to graph it until you come back and check. So pause the video real quick and then come back and check before you try graphing. Okay, so hopefully you've tried this, and I'm willing to bet that you fell victim to a little trick, which is why I told you to wait before you graphed it, because there's a trick in this problem. So there's my angles. It's a cosine again, so I'm going to write down x. So 1, 0, negative 1, 0, 1. And before we do anything, see this right here? Remember I told you up here earlier that we have to pull out this B thing? Well, we have to do that here. This B is hiding on the inside. And if you didn't do this, then you have the wrong phase shift. So I'm going to pull this 2 out. I'm going to rewrite my equation. This equation is really so I pulled this 2 out, so the 2's right here, so if I multiply back in, you get 2 theta, plus pi over 2, when you pull out a 2, becomes pi over 4. And I know that, so I multiply the 2 back in, I'll get 2 pi over 4, which becomes pi over 2. So to all my angle stuff, I have to do these things. So I need to divide by 2 or multiply by a half. So let's do that first. I'm going to multiply by a half. I'm going to get 0. Pi over 4, pi over 2, 3 pi over 4, pi. So I took care of this 2 on the inside, and then I have to I have to subtract a pi over 4. It says plus pi over 4, which means you're moving to the left pi over 4, so you really need to minus pi over 4. It's a girly thing, it's backwards. So negative pi over 4, 0, pi over 4. This is going to become 2 pi over 4, which is really pi over 2, and 3 pi over 4. And I'm going to box these, so I remember that these were my final ones. To all my x stuff, I need to multiply by negative 3, so negative 3, and I'm going to put a little multiply sign. So negative 3, 0, 3, 0, negative 3, and then I have to subtract 1. So minus 1, so negative 4, negative 1, 2, negative 1, negative 4. I'm going to box these because this is my final answer. I'm going to graph. At negative pi over 4, I'm at negative 4. So negative pi over 4, negative 4. At 0, I'm at negative 1. At pi over 4, I'm at 2. At pi over 2, I'm at negative 1. And at 3 pi over 4, I'm back down at negative 4. And the pattern keeps repeating itself. Like that. So there's my graph, and all I had to do was do this little table, and then it's easy as can be. So now what I do is go to page 249 and try it on your own, and then come back and see if our answers match.